In at number 10, we have got the Carnotaurus, and this creature really did have to be here on the list for me, and there are several reasons why, and the first reason probably comes down to a lot of sheer nostalgia for this creature from all of the old version of Ark, but still, I really enjoy this creature for just its wealth of features as well. Namely, it does have the bleed ability, which barely any carnivores actually have, which doesn't really make sense considering they're carnivores and they rip into creatures, but you know, hey ho, that's just the way it works. And also, they're pretty small and compact and quite speedy and pretty easy to tame as well, which again really does play to their advantage hugely, as you know, you can easily get around the map and beat other creatures or players in combat situations because you actually have the ability to, you know, move around all over the place. And again, that size really does help. They're kind of a little bit of a stealth creature, although their stomp sounds are aggressively loud, especially considering their size, but you know, that's fine. You're not really gonna completely use them for that, or really use them at all for that in the matter, but they're just a really easy, convenient, nice carnivore you can get in the early stages of the Ark game, which just really does pack a punch. Next up, we have the Theory, and this creature had to be here for its sheer greatness in resource gathering, and also the fact that its saddle was unlocked at level 69.
Nice.
With this thing, in terms of the resources which it can gather, is actually fiber, wood, thatch, and any kind of berries, hide, and wood. And fiber is a particular one which I want to talk about, because fiber is such an essential resource for any Ark player. Like, come on, you're gonna always need some more fiber. You can get tons and tons of the stuff with this creature, which again, that hugely does benefit I don't even know anymore. It hugely benefits you, sorry, that's what I meant to say, throughout the whole Ark experience, as fiber can just be gathered so easily with this creature. You never really have to worry about it again, until you obviously you have to go out and get some fiber. But the main kind of use for these things on the island, which is not really as widely used on other maps, is for the dragon boss fight. But if the map which you're on has the dragon as one of its bosses, because I know some other maps kind of tie in some bosses together, then get some theories for that fight, as the dragon is particularly harsh to non-herbivores, and considering this is a herbivore, you know, it works quite well. Just pay attention to the healing of these creatures, as sometimes it can be pretty horrible to do. Sorry, I've got a bit of hiccups at the moment. Compared to just having normal meat, as you need sweet vegetable cake for them to heal really quickly, and that's just very expensive. And now we have the Carnotaurus, and this creature is hugely powerful, which is obviously why it's on this list, and the Giga kind of would have been on this list until this creature came out, as it does whatever the Giga does, or all that the Giga does, not whatever the Giga does. It sounds like I don't really know what the Giga is, and just does it better. It deals more damage than the Giga because, you know, once that blood rage is full, it will deal more damage than the Giga. It has more health because it doesn't have the rage meter. Its stamina is better, and it can actually move a reasonable pace. I don't know anymore. I'm really struggling for words today, which is lovely. But either way, yeah, their pace is pretty quick, especially for a creature of this size. And obviously, if you want to be stupid, you can crank all your levels into stamina if you want. But I wouldn't really recommend doing that, but I guess these things can really run for ages if you do that. Maybe just get a stamina mutation if you're actually looking into all of that. And yeah, these creatures are just, although not the easiest to tame, as there is a little bit of faff involved with the tame method, they are pretty easy to tame, and once you've got them, they're really extremely powerful creatures, which essentially are just the Giga, but in every way that the Giga's bad, it's better. And they also deal the bleed ability, which is another huge bonus. In at number 7, we have the Bionics, and I don't really know where I would be in Ark without this creature here. Like, when you look at this creature, you really see true, like, usefulness in it, I guess you could say, because, you know, it's Bionics, it's a really great caving creature. You can really see this creature for what it is, and it's just such a useful one for all kinds of caving on the island. Again, I wouldn't really know where I would be without this creature. Obviously, it can't fit into the cave which holds the artifacts of the Skylord, so if you're going for that one, don't really Bionics to it, but no creature can really fit into that. You need to crouch at some points of the cave anyway, but I guess with cries you could possibly get one in there, but they're not particularly useful in that given scenario, so I wouldn't really recommend that or too much, because, you know, it's not really going to be that useful, and you could risk just getting the Bionics falling into one of those holes that lead to nowhere and losing it forever. And it's also really great now in the water caves as well, because of that spin ability, which in stone creatures up to the size of a megalodon They're just so versatile in all of their caving uses and also just combat uses as well. They're great combat creatures. They've got really good melee damage, of course, and their health is pretty good as well. Again, size is perfect for caves because they're really thin and they're not too tall, and also they have pretty nice agility on top of that too. Next up, we have the Mwing, and this is just pretty much the epitome of travel mounts in Ark. This thing, again, really terrible with the words today, but yeah, this thing really does pack a punch in the travel department, if you can even say something packs a punch in something which doesn't really deal a heck of a lot of damage. Its gliding ability just makes it so agile and quick moving across pretty much any map, as they don't need a whole lot of verticality like something such as the Rock Drake to actually move around the map, and I find they're pretty easy to take around some flatter areas of Ark maps, which obviously does play to their benefit, and obviously they can skim across the top of water as well, so you know, if there's any water about, you can just skim over the top of that really quickly with ultimate ease. But obviously they're not just absolute traveling beasts. These creatures also are really great for breeding, as they act as a portable feeding trough, and they can gather berries on top of that too. The only real downside to these things is the animation for the feeding trough just looks a little bit creepy to me. In at number 5, we have the Blood Stalker, and this creature is my favourite underwater tame right now, and I really think it is perfectly balanced for all things Ark, especially in the water. Of course, these things are quick, agile swimmers that can also skim over the top of water as well, which again just plays to their benefit, and I have no idea why I didn't actually swim in the water when doing the B-roll for this. I only just skim over the top of it like you'll see there, but I didn't actually go into it, even though I use these things for mainly underwater things, and they essentially act like the awesome Spyglass mod, allowing you to see the aggros of creatures and also where loads of creatures are, which, you know, that's a really nice ability to have, especially in the water where sometimes it might be dark and you can't really see creatures. You can easily spot anything so easily with that ability, and it doesn't just have to be ocean creatures, it can be on the land as well. And also on top of that, these creatures really do have really great traveling abilities just on land as well. They're really great traveling mounts, and you could say they're kind of slightly more useful than the Mwing in a lot of scenarios, especially for underwater travel actually. But the skimming on top of the water is pretty much the same thing, but just for general normal travel, you could say, as you don't really need any verticality, but there is still an essence of verticality involved, which kind of backpedals on my point there. But you can make do without. It's just to kind of, you just need things to grab onto really, which is obviously what changes this from just a normal flyer, but I still think it is a really perfect creature for me. Next up, we have the Reaper, and this creature is just so good in like every way. And although yes, maybe the Reaper Queen has a slightly better second attack than the Reaper King, but this is obviously a Reaper Queen in the B-roll, by the way. Actually, it's not a Reaper King, if you couldn't tell. They look pretty similar, but I force tamed a Reaper Queen, so it's technically, this is not really what you're getting, because you know, the tail ability is different, but still the general gist of it is exactly the same. It's kind of the same creature really. Yeah, that was the only thing that could make it in essence any better, but I'm still perfectly fine with it is. And obviously with the R Reapers on Gen 2, they really are hugely powerful tames with pretty interesting tame methods as well, which again makes them a really interesting one to me, and I enjoy that about them quite heavily actually, that you can really get a lot of use out of these creatures and also just a lot of experience out of taming one, and it really feels like you've truly achieved something when you tame a Reaper, which can't really be said for some other Ark creatures, especially if you tame it on Operation, as on Gen 2 it's pretty cheesy to do and it doesn't require all too much effort. But if you do have Gen 2 and you think you're taming a Reaper and you've never tamed one before, maybe it's the map to start on. In at number 3, we have the Shadow Mane, and this creature has to be here. The Shadow Mane is just so densely packed with all kinds of abilities, it just has to make the list. It's just, this is the Shadow Mane in essence and in heart. It is such a good creature for all things combat. It's a really good travel mount as well, as it is really fast and agile, which again really does play to it very strongly. And on top of that, it works really well underwater as well. But you know, its name kind of is Lionfish Lion when you look through all the models and you know, all of that. It is Lionfish Lion. That is the name of this creature, so you know, you could probably expect this creature to be really great. And it does have the hydration buff, which only it and the Spino share, and it can go invisible. It has the pack buff It's also a really great boss creature, if I haven't mentioned that already. I don't think I have. And as you can see there, really great in the water. Its only real downside is its tail method, because that thing is an absolute pain, and I wouldn't wish it on even my worst enemies. In at number 2, we have got the Desmodus, and this creature just reeks pure quality. When you think of it, it just has such a high wealth of abilities, and with that sanguine elixir, you really do have a creature which has pure greatness within it. And you know, that really does play to this creature being like the perfect Ark creature. That sanguine elixir is an absolute cheat for tames. It's a blood bag farm, allowing you to obviously farm blood bags. It can grapple onto walls like the Tapajara. It can glide like the snow out, and it can even go invisible in the night time as well, which I couldn't show you because I was in the Wastelands biome extinction. Chose the absolute worst biome, and for some reason the animation kind of glitched later for the gliding ability, which is nice, I guess. But yeah, the Desmodus just reeks pure quality, and its tame method is exactly the same as the Bloodstalker. And once you have a Desmodus, taming a Bloodstalker is much easier, as those blood bags are really easy to come by, as you know, you can just farm them with this creature. And it also does a pretty hefty amount of damage, and in PvP scenarios you can pick players off mounts, so really is a great tame. And in number 1, we have the Deinonychus, and in my opinion, this had to make the number 1 spot. This creature is just like perfect in every way. Its taming method is great, and this thing is heavily packed with abilities. I guess maybe the only thing it could do better is be better in the water, but you know, the fact that this thing can deal bleed damage to bosses really does make it just such a great creature. And its size is really great as well. It could be a great caving mount, as it can fit into pretty much every cave. Its tame method is really easy. You just have to steal its eggs from a nest and then raise those. Nothing crazy, especially compared to the Shadow Moon tame method, which is significantly harder. And although, yeah, maybe they could do a little bit of swimming, it's not really their forte, but I wouldn't use them for that in any sense whatsoever. I would use them for bosses, because they can obviously deal bleed damage to bosses and latch onto them and all of that. But they also are really great for traveling, as they don't take full damage, and they can absolutely tread across land so quickly, as obviously they can kind of just parkour around the map. And also they do have the pack buff as well, which makes them even better for combats, just going back to bosses. The fact that these creatures have pack buffs really do make them so much better for all things to do with bosses. Again, just really makes them even better creatures, and you'll see that kind of parkour being used here. As you can say, they kind of just jump across the rocks, and you know, it really does make scaling those taller cliffs not so much of a headache, as you just have to go around them. You can just simply scale them in true fashion. So if you have never already, considering this one in Valguero, which is a free DLC map, tame yourself a Deinonychus, you will not regret it.
Now, of course, we must shout out our patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, who are our paid Patreon members at the moment. Thank you for all your support. I really appreciate everyone on this list. Everyone else is, of course, free members. Thanks for the support, though.